Hey, it is time to break the Seahawks hex.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We made it to Friday, everybody. What's going on? Matt Derry with you on this, a Friday, September 27th and a Saturday, September 28th, and the weekend. Locked On Lions, Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Matt Derry with you, been with you for the last 9 seasons. Thanks for making us your first listen. Checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. If you're new to the podcast, welcome in. Please tell your friends about us. Like and subscribe on our Locked On Lions YouTube channel as well. We appreciate all of you that check out the show daily. If you missed, Corbin Smith, Locked On Seahawks, joined us yesterday on the crossover. Please check that out as well, as the Lions will host Seattle for Monday Night Football coming up this coming Monday, 8:15. I love what Amon-Ra St. Brown said the other day. He's like, this sucks that we have to share the spotlight with another game. Like the Lions and Seahawks are not the only game Monday night. And he's like, it kind of takes away. And I kind of agree. Even last Monday night, like Commanders Bengals was great, but who was watching, hardly anybody was tuning into the Bills, absolutely waxing Jacksonville. Locked On Lions today brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Shout out to our everydayers who are out there, all of you that watch and listen every day. Got a couple of those. First and foremost, my good buddy, Nancy Taylor. She loves the pod. She's the queen of LinkedIn. We love you, Nancy. Thanks for supporting Locked On Lions and rooting on the Lions, certainly on Monday night. Kyriakos Katros. I just met Kyriakos yesterday at Andiamo in Warren. He's like the GM or whatever. Walked by me and introduced himself and said he loves the show. So shout out to Kyriakos. And yes, we've got some listeners up in beautiful Peoria, Illinois, checking us out. Sean Kelly, Micah Rabin, and Evan Kelnhofer. Evan Kelnhofer, thanks, fellas, for taking good care of somebody that means a lot, someone that means a lot to me. And thanks for checking us out today on Locked On Lions. Appreciate all of you. All right, coming up on the show today, Lions and Seahawks has not been pretty for Detroit. The last 5 times these two teams have played. And really, you look at the entire series and the history, the Seahawks have kind of wiped the floor with the Lions. But I think they can buck the trend on Monday night. We'll get into that coming up momentarily. We didn't tell you this yesterday because we recorded the other night for the crossover, but Frank Ragnow out. What does that mean for the Lions offense? We will discuss that coming up momentarily, the entire injury report. And yes, I think there's a guy that's going to have a big game on Monday night and actually played in the Monday night game. Remember last year with the Raiders in Detroit, and that's Amik Robertson. And I'll tell you why coming up momentarily here on this Friday edition of Locked On Lions. First and foremost, I said it before, the Lions and the Seahawks have played some wild games lately, but for some odd reason, over the last 3 years, the Lions have gotten absolutely smoked by Seattle. You go back to January of 2022. And this was the first year or no, this was year 1 of Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell. And the Seahawks just destroyed the Lions 51-29. Lions could not stop them the entire day. 2 years ago, if you remember, that was the Geno Smith coming out party game, October 2nd of 2022, when the Seahawks won 48-45. Last year, Goff throws the pick 6. Lions lose to the Seahawks 37-31. That went in overtime on the Geno Smith walk-off touchdown pass. So dating back the last 5 times these two teams have played, because you want to go to 2017 playoffs, 2016 playoffs in 2017. Lions make the wild card under the Reverend Jim Caldwell, go out to Seattle, and Thomas Rawls and those guys ran all over them. And the Lions, Ebron, dropped him as prime, Eric Ebron, dropping passes left and right. And the Lions lost that game 26-6. Even in 2018 at Ford Field, Lions lost to the Seahawks 28-14. So the Lions have had a little bit of an issue with Seattle as the Seahawks have lead the all-time series 13-5. The last time the Lions won and beat the Seahawks was 2012 at Ford Field, 28-24. Lions are 5-13 lifetime against Seattle, and it's not been a good scene. It's time to break this trend. It's time to buck the odds here. Lions are 3.5-point favorites, by the way. The number went down a point ever since this Ragnow situation and his injury. But regardless, it's time for the Lions to beat Seattle. Period. Like, enough's enough. The last 2 years, they've made Geno Smith, and don't get me wrong, Geno Smith's a good quarterback. He's had good success at Ford Field, but the last 2 years, they've made Geno Smith look like the second coming of Joe Montana. He has had way too much time to throw. He has had way too easy of a time in the pocket. He's been able to scramble. It's been the Geno show the last 2 years at Ford Field. Also throw in, and Corbin Smith pointed this out from Locked On Seahawks yesterday on the crossover, Jared Goff in each of the last 2 years has thrown a pick six against Seattle. That cannot happen on Monday night. Lions have to take care of the football. But it has not been a good scene for Detroit anytime they have played the Seahawks. And don't get me wrong, the Seahawks are a good team. They've always been a good organization. Pete Carroll, before him, Chuck Knox. They've had good coaches. They've won Super Bowls. I get that. All right. Russell Wilson was there for a long time, and Marshawn Lynch and those teams. But man, isn't it just time for the Lions to finally knock off Seattle? They've lost 6 in a row in the series, and the last 3 years have just been embarrassed by Seattle and Geno Smith the last 2. It's been bad. So time for the Lions to get this thing going. I know there was the Monday night game years ago, the KJ Wright batting the ball out of the end zone game, all sorts of stuff that has gone wrong when Detroit has played Seattle. And we're going to get to the Ragnow injury in a second and all of that. There should be no excuses. I know the Lions are banged up. I know Davenport's out. I know Laporte has hobbled a little bit. He was back at practice today. Branch is coming off a concussion. They're not going to have Ragnow. Seattle's got injuries too. All right, they're starting a third string right tackle on Monday night. Lions are at home. You fans are going to be crazy loud. And imagine, well, they're going to do it, but I'm recording here on Friday afternoon. Tigers make the playoffs. This town is going to be going nuts on Monday night, getting ready for a Tiger playoff game on Tuesday, either in Baltimore or in Houston. And the Lions on Monday Night Football and prime time again. Last year, I was at the Monday night game with our buddy Turner Batdorf and his family, and the place was up for grabs. And that was a bad Raiders team, and Josh McDaniels, and everybody knew the Lions were going to win that game. The Lions actually didn't even play that well that day, but Seattle's 3-0. They're one of the big dogs atop the NFC right now, very early in the season. I'm well aware of whom they've played so far. All right. They played New England, barely beat them. They played Denver, and Seattle has taken care of some bad teams so far this year. And Miami last week with Skylar Thompson and former Mr. August, Tim Boyle, at quarterback. Seahawks are an improved team. Mike McDonald's a very good defensive mind. We saw it with the Ravens. We saw it here locally when he was the DC at University of Michigan. Woolen and Witherspoon, they got good players in that secondary. All right, but I think the Lions can run the football on the Seahawks team. I think they can utilize this crowd, and I just don't see another scenario. And I know he's had good games against Detroit in the past, and I know he's off to a good start this year, but they've made Geno Smith, and Geno Smith's had a nice couple of years with Seattle, but they have made him look way too comfortable, and that cannot continue on Monday night. Not at all. I mean, in the last 2 years, Seattle has put up 85 points in 2 games on the Lions, 48 and 37. That should never happen at Ford Field, ever. That kind of ease. And look, DK Metcalf's good. Smith and Jigba solid. What if Kenneth Walker is healthy? Charbonnet, Tyler Lockett. They've got a good team. I'm not saying the Lions defense, this is the week they break, because they've been bending and playing well. They've held opponents 20 points or less in the first 3 weeks for the first time since 93. I'm not telling you this is the week but I'm also not going to predict a 51-48 final or a 48-45 game like we saw a couple of years ago. So we'll see. But no excuses, man. Monday Night Football, you're at home. We haven't seen the best of the Lions yet, right? Struggled a little bit against Arizona, struggled to, get that win against the Rams. Was trailing in the fourth quarter, did not play well against Tampa. What if this is the week? Things start clicking. We see the Jared Goff of old. We see St. Brown do his thing. We see Laporta do his thing. Jamison Williams doesn't have one catch like he did last week. He has multiple big plays. Dave Phipp, the special teams coordinator, says they're going to break a punt return soon. They're close with Khalif Raymond. What if that takes place this week? It's time to do it. All right, coming up next, big injury, though, for the Lions with Frank Ragnow. What I think they're going to do, we will get into that next here on a Friday edition of Locked On Lions. And folks, Locked On Lions is brought to you by our friends at Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash, receive unlimited 1% deposit bonuses, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only, check this out, $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. That's Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply for product-specific disclosures. Visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. And Locked On Lions as well today, brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks. Looking to play daily fantasy sports, whether it's baseball, football. We got hoops and hockey coming up soon. Pistons have Media Day coming up on Monday. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. Heck, women's hoops, you can do that too. Got the playoffs going on in the WNBA. All you do is pick more or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Think DK Metcalf's going to go for 100 yards on Sunday? Maybe you do. You can bet on that at PrizePicks. Jared Goff, we're going to see a 280-yard passing day, more than 280, less than 280. Bet on that at PrizePicks.com. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL and get 50% off or get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't have to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Back with you on a Friday edition of Locked On Lions. Matt Derry with you. So Dan Campbell came out on Thursday, and not a big surprise. Although he plays through so much pain and he's a complete and utter warrior. But Frank Ragnow is going to miss this Monday night game against Seattle. He's going to be out due to a torn pectoral muscle. We mentioned it throughout the week. Ragnow plays through a crap load of pain. I almost swore there. Ankle problems, knee issues, fingers mangled. Frank Ragnow is out there no matter what. It takes a lot to miss number 77 as the starting center for the Lions. But this week, a torn pec muscle, it's too much to handle. You got a bye week next week, then the Cowboys in a couple of weeks. So they're going to give Frank Ragnow here a couple of weeks to rest. He's brilliant. He's as good a center as there is in the game, and this is a big loss for the Lions. I touched on it on the Locked On NFL or Locked On NFC North preview show with Pete and Lucas and Luke Braun and our man in Chicago. And the biggest thing I said was when we talked about MVPs in the division, Lauren Cox, by the way, in Chicago, I said Frank Ragnow might be the MVP of the Lions because they just aren't the same team without him. He calls out the signals. He sees things and makes adjustments with Jared Goff. He's at the center of the field. he makes sure that Goff is protected up the middle. You rush a quarterback up the middle and get in his chest, get in his chin. It's usually not a good scene. So missing Ragnow is going to hurt. The Lions have not said what they're going to do at the center position on Monday night, but it appears Jared Goff kind of tipping his hand a little bit the other day, talking about Graham Glasgow. Glasgow has started at left guard the first 3 weeks. Of course, was the right guard last year, played some center, has played some center in the past, and started some games last year there. My guess is you're looking at Glasgow at center and Coyote Iwoshika at left guard. He started some games at both left and right guard last year in place of Glasgow and Jonah Jackson. So that's where I think they're going to go. They've got Michael Neese as kind of a backup center. Big Kingsley, who's on the practice squad, also they could be elevated. But I think it's going to be Graham Glasgow at center for this game on Monday night. You got to figure Mike McDonald's going to dial some things up. He's not as blitz heavy or happy as he was with the Ravens. But remember, and Corbin pointed this out yesterday on Locked On Seahawks in the crossover, McDonald was the one last year that really slowed down the Lions offense with that Raven defense. But again, Baltimore's defense is as good as there is in the league. And Seattle's defense is good, but not Baltimore. So we'll see how this goes, but expect Glasgow to start at center. Missing Ragnow hurts. It hurts. But I would probably guess that he's only going to miss this week. Because next week with the bye, and then you've got Dallas in 2 weeks. And Dallas, by the way, has got some guys banged up as well, and that are going to miss the Lions game in 2 weeks. As far as the full injury report today, the Lions don't have to make their injury designations, obviously, in terms of who's out, who's not. They may do that over the weekend. But they didn't have to make all those designations today because they will have another sort of mini practice and walkthrough tomorrow. But today, here on a Friday, Melifonwu remains out with an injured ankle and did not practice. Frank Ragnow, we told you, is going to be out for this game. Ennis Rakestraw Jr., who's been bothered by a sore hamstring the last couple of weeks, limited in practice today. Good news, full practice today for Brian Branch coming back from a concussion, Sam Laporta, sore ankle, Aleem McNeil had that shoulder injury, Levi Onwuzurike, knee, and Dan Skipper, ribs. All those guys were at full practice today. And Gaines Media poster boy, Alex Anzalone, removed from the injury report. He is fully healthy, coming back from a concussion, and he will be available for Monday night against Seattle, which they need Anzalone because they're going to be without Derek Barnes for a few weeks. With the guys coming out of that backfield, Charbonnet, Kenneth Walker, you're going to need Anzalone in this game. So that's good news on the injury front. Laporta with the ankle going through full practice today is key because we've talked about this for weeks, and they're talking about it in Kansas City as well with Travis Kelce. We haven't seen the Sam Laporta we saw last year, just like Kansas City hasn't seen Taylor Swift's man the way that he has played. It has not been the firework-like start for Laporta. This could be the week. I think this is the week. Jared Goff really connects with Laporta. We see 6-7 catches. We see him moving the chains on third downs. And maybe, just maybe, we see him in the end zone for the first time this year. Number 87's got to be a part of this. Last week, he gutted it out after turning his ankle. But back to full practice today is excellent news. And I'm excited to see what Sam Laporta can do against, again, a pretty darn good Seattle defense. But I think we're ready to see the Lions offense break out. I mean, Jamison Williams caught, was it 10 passes the first 2 weeks for over 200 yards. And then this past week, just one catch. St. Brown, we know, has been up and down, been more up than down the last couple of weeks. Montgomery and Gibbs, there's weapons here. I know they're without Ragnow. I get that. But let's see a more consistent Jared Goff at home, loud crowd, night game. I will be there, by the way. Props to everydayer Matt Cunningham for the invite. I will be there. It's going to be great. Seattle's coming into 3-0. It's time for them to lose. No offense, Seahawks. Start of the year, we talked about NFC teams at the top. You know, the Niners and the Eagles, the Packers, the Lions, Dallas, Tampa Bay, people like the Rams. Seattle's a good team, but Are they going to really be 4-0 after this week? I'm not so sure. I'm not ready to crown Seattle just yet. Lions can take it to them this week and on Monday night. So I'm excited about that. All right. One guy I've not mentioned that I think is going to play a big factor in this game on Monday evening is Amik Robertson. I will tell you why we come back. Folks, how about what's going on down at Comerica Park? This is crazy. The Tigers do not lose. And if you're betting on the Tigers on the money line, every single game, you're racking in the dough. You're raking it in. All right. So how do you start big, though, with the NFL season? With a big return, you do it on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbooks. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet on FanDuel. Just go to FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com. Again, Lions 3.5-point favorites now on FanDuel. Started off around 5, was at 4.5. Ragnow injury and some other injuries the Lions have had. And some money going on Seattle. Lions now 3.5-point favorites. You want to bet on the Lions for the Monday night game? Do so at FanDuel, America's #1, numero uno sportsbook. All right, so this offseason, Brad Holmes, Lions' astute general manager, done a great job in year 4. He went out in free agency, and everybody talked about, and I know it came after the fact, but DJ Reader signing, trading for Carlton Davis, re-signing Graham Glasgow, re-signing Taylor Decker, re-signing Penei Sewell, re-signing Jared Goff, bringing Amon-Ra St. Brown back. But sort of an under-the-radar move this offseason was getting Amik Robertson on a 2-year deal away from the Las Vegas Raiders. And if you're a guy like Robertson, you're like, I'm welcome to leave Vegas. All right. Raiders, they're fun, but they stink. Robertson's coming to a contender, and he was coming in to play that nickel cornerback spot, to be that third guy, to work in the slot and play a role on this team. Preseason, he played a lot more than Terrion Arnold did and Carlton Davis and the others. And you're like, why is Amik Robertson playing so much in the preseason? I think the Lions knew, looking at matchups the first few weeks of the season, the regular season, they weren't going to see a ton of 4 wide receiver and a lot of weapons maybe with some of these other teams. You know, Rams like to run the ball with Kyron Williams. Bucks, we know, love the 2 tight end look. Arizona, the same thing this week or this past week. Well, this week, we know this. The Lions are going to need Terrion Arnold. They're going to need Carlton Davis, and they are big time going to need Amik Robertson, because the Seahawks employ 3 wide receivers who are all really good pretty much all game. DK Metcalf on one side, Tyler Lockett on the other side, and Jackson Smith and Jigba, formerly of Ohio State, who's starting to come into his own, JSN, in the slot and all over the place. And that's a matchup you really want to watch Monday night. Amik Robertson against JSN. The Lions have not had to have 3 corners on the field every down. But now, with Derek Barnes hurt, we're going to see probably less linebackers and less. There's a big drop-off between Derek Barnes and a Malcolm Rodriguez or a Ben Neiman or somebody like that. You know, Jack Campbell's going to be out there. Alex Anzalone's going to be out there. But they're going to miss Derek Barnes. But I think you're going to see Amik Robertson play more snaps Monday than he has played the first 3 weeks. And, man, Geno's been spreading the ball around. DK Metcalf's that deep threat. Tyler Lockett can really run when he catches the ball in space. But it's been that Smith and Jigba on 3rd downs, big conversions, had a big game last week against Miami. That's a guy to keep an eye on. And I think Amik Robertson, if he can kind of neutralize JSN a little bit, that will help the Lions' cause. And the Lions, and I just mentioned it earlier, have not been able to stop Seattle the last 2 years, giving up over 80 points. So I like this matchup. I like the opportunity that we're going to see more of Robertson. Every pass deflection or pass defended or whatever, or incompletion in his area, he's going to trash talk. I went back and watched some of the plays of the last couple of weeks. Anytime the ball's in Amik's direction and it's an incomplete pass, he's waving his hands, no good. He's trash talking the other team. You got to have some mouthy guys on your squad. Not everybody can be a choir boy. Amik plays with a chip on his shoulder. And I think Seattle is going to try to pick on him a little bit this weekend or this Monday night. And it'll be up to Robertson to kind of step up and have a big game. So I'm excited about it. I'm going to take the Lions in this game. I'm going to say 31-27, right on the number, 4-point win. They got a good kicker in Myers. They're well coached, but Seattle is, are they really going to go 4-0? They've played a soft schedule to start the year with Denver and Miami and New England. This is their first conference game here in the NFC. They've kind of played some of the dregs of the AFC to start the year. And I think the Lions will win this football game, something like 31-27. Thanks for making us your first listen, checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. We will be on with you Monday night late. So Monday's show will air after the game. Monday night, don't forget Jake Riepma will have the postcast. That's a live show right here on Locked On Lions and Locked On Sports Detroit. And then I'll come back with you once I get home from the game, and we'll do a late night pod Monday night into Tuesday morning. Go Lions. Have a great weekend, everybody.